welcome. Comfort Touch practitioners all. It's been a while. Lot been going on. And so I just wanted to check in today, kind of let you know what I've been up to and hear what you're up to. And particularly, you know, we're almost to that 2-year point with the pandemic. And I remember thinking back, you know, a couple of years ago when I canceled my April workshop, that, yeah, this is going to be a couple of years. And just judging by what I had studied of the Spanish flu. And so we are here, and we amazingly have some resources in terms of vaccine that have made it possible for us to continue our lives. But we've also come through a lot. You know, we've lost friends, family, been through illnesses ourselves, been through great disruptions in terms of work, social life.
A significant thing, I think, has been a greater sense of strength and resiliency in adapting to all the changes, both in the world and my personal life.
A few things that came out of the last 2 years is finding more solitude in myself, and also gratitude. Gratitude that I live such a privileged life, that during this really stressful time, I was able to find so much time for meditation and grounding myself. And I feel for the first time in my life, I have a good I have a feeling of good direction where I'm going to go with my massage therapy work. And the other good thing is that I did the Comfort Touch training online. So it was wonderful. Thank you. I studied your revised book very well. So
Good.
You. Sorry I haven't met you in person, but thank you for your book. Thank you.
There has been a lot of loss, personal loss, and yet I wake up every day so thankful for, I work in hospice, and I wake up every day so thankful for our many, many volunteers who, regardless of the fear, they still went out there and took care of our hospice patients until we didn't let them come back for a while, but as soon as we did, they were right there because they know how much it means to sit with. We weren't allowed to actually have hands-on connections, but now it's opened up. So I'm very excited, and I really want to retrain myself because it's been a long time since I've done it. And that's what I'm looking forward to, is actually retraining. My grandson is going to be so excited because he's my guinea pig when I practice, and he loves it. I will say, hey, Nina, give me some CT.
Kids will give really good feedback. I mean, they're honest. They give you really good honest.
They do.
Yeah.
Especially.
The thing that I've grown closer to during this is nature. They had a lot, lockdowns in the main building. We're in independent living, but in the main building, we couldn't do the things that we used to do. We couldn't get together. We couldn't do this. So I have a garden space, a wonderful garden space, and I did some volunteering out there and helped to take care of 100 rose garden. And they just became my friends. And I just became really, really aware of everything around me that you normally don't have the time to see or to notice because you're too busy doing other things. So I think that's my biggest gift back from this, is just drawing closer to nature.
Last 2 years, I've learned to live without massage, both without doing it or receiving it. And I've learned that I don't like that. But otherwise, I've also learned that I'm pretty adaptable and flexible, and that I don't really mind being not social. I mean, it was a big change, but I'm a little disappointed on how easy it is to not do anything.
I live in Montana, and in most ways, things haven't changed for me with COVID. Mostly, I just carried on. Yeah, I did, like others, I've done a lot more hiking, which is significant because that's my favorite medicine is walking. I'm actually a private in-home CNA.
COVID, what has been the positive side of it for the last couple of years that you've come through? Yes.
I was just going to list all my long haul symptoms here.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
COVID. Oh boy, I had it twice. I've been fully vaxxed and boosted, and extremely careful. And out of all of that came the unnecessary busyness that I had built into my life. And so now I feel like going back into real life, it's like that balance about where I want to put my energy has kind of been the ongoing lesson, and who I really want to spend my time with, and, you know, let go some of the superficiality of what was in my life.
Reprioritizing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What's important.
I do like to stay in touch and see what's going on. I did take your course. I loved your course. And
You
I
did.
thought, well, maybe in my retirement years.
I jumped in a little late, but from what I gather, we're looking at the positives of COVID.
Yes,
And
yeah.
I made a life changing decision where I decided to leave corporate America. I was an HR professional, and I decided I had enough of that. And then COVID hit right at that. So I've been using the last couple of years to really follow my intuition and go into what I really wanted to do. I'm a Reiki practitioner and Reiki master. And during COVID, I took Inelda's death doula training. And I first came across Comfort Touch. I was a hospice volunteer at the time too, before we all got shut out of seeing our patients. But one of our volunteer director at the time did a demonstration with Comfort Touch. So that's has raised my awareness about it. And I'd like to add more to it, to my repertoire. So I'm part of some death awareness groups here in North Carolina. So I'm just, I'm being, for the last couple of years, I've been a sponge.
For me, the last 2 years has been very productive and also just exhausting. I did get the Comfort Touch book revised, and then just recently the little bereavement book that I'm going to talk about more here. For me, I'm just a homebody anyway, so but I'm like a social introvert, so I like people, but I'm pretty happy to be home. So my thing over the last 2 years, the really fun thing that I've gotten into in the last couple of years is hand stitching, historical sewing kind of stuff. So that's kind of been a fun thing for me, and as well as music. It's been that's always kind of been a good coping thing for me. We've been in this pandemic, which means that it's something that everybody's been going through, and some of you that have had it and had long haul. I know, Carol, you've talked about that. It's long haul symptoms. It's or whatever kind of health stuff that people go through, and which just the process of getting older brings all what my partner and I call the daily decrepitude checklist. But also permission to let go, permission to say, I don't have to do that anymore. This is what's really important to me. This is what I'm going to do. and I don't need to do that. So that's been, I think, a gift of this time. And I do think that we've all had that sort of collective anxiety with everything from political situations in this country, economic challenges. You know, the massage profession for sure took a huge hit, and people are finding their way back into it. The grief and loss because of people that have been directly affected by the pandemic. And then in all of this, as we're beginning to feel hopeful, you know, the most feared country that we've always kind of had in our psyche, most of us of our age growing up, attacks a free country. And so that has been very, very personal for me, and that I have friends there that I've been in touch with every day in Ukraine through a music community. How do I stay in touch with them? How do I stay in touch with what's going on in the world and not just go in a severe depression about it? How do I be helpful? How do I be useful without, you know, keeping a healthy boundary around the feelings that come up when you just listen to the news? Back to comfort touch here, since that is the common interest that we have. I'm really happy to hear that those of you who've taken the course and had a good time with it. You know, it's so hard for me to stop teaching in person, but I'm also, I've been, the feedback has been really good.
Actually, I'm from Hawaii, island of Oahu, and started on your program, or had taken your home study course. And many years ago, utilized it as I was a home hospice nurse.
Yeah, so we have another time zone here. What time is it in Hawaii right now?
It's at 10:40 a.m.
It's 10:40 a.m. We've got New York on the 4 o'clock there. So yeah, we've got 6-hour time difference here. That's awesome. Let's just give our little part of the world a big hug here. People have asked me, well, is everything in hospice volunteer? It's not. I mean, it is. There are definitely people that are paid to do hospice massage. And then there are programs that train volunteers to do comfort touch. And in some states, they can do that without being massage therapists because they fall under exemptions of Massage Practice Acts. Because hospice has a mandate from Medicare that certain percentage of patient care be volunteer, it's kind of, that has kind of been one of the impetus for why hospice tends to use more volunteers in massage.
I actually work in hospice. I have for probably close to 20 years now. And we do have paid massage therapists, and we're mandated they have to be paid. They cannot be volunteers because they're allowed to get a salary. They're licensed. Our comfort touch falls in between that area where we have Reiki and we have comfort touch. Those are strictly volunteer because in the state of Massachusetts, they are not mandated for the testing. They do not have to be certified. So that's how we focus. And it's really been a wonderful blending. We've also taught our massage therapists comfort touch. And it's really made an impact and a difference with them, especially with our very fragile, the skin of our patients. It's so delicate and fragile. So the combination for our actually paid staff has been wonderful. And for our volunteers, they have to go through a lot of the comfort touch training. And I think that you'll find if you contact different hospice organizations surrounding you, They will really talk to you and give you guidelines. I know I get a lot of calls about massage for patients, and I'm always happy to explain the process and also direct them on what should go next. So Kathleen, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate.
Well, thank you. I just learned a lot from both of you. Thank you about hospice and Medicare, and thank you. It's encouraging.
One thing to keep in mind is that chapter 6 of the text, or chapter 9 of the textbook, has administrative guidelines on implementing Comfort Touch programs. So if you're working within any organization, medical organization, senior center, or hospice, there are very specific information in that chapter. So and a lot of times people, that kind of gets lost in the training, but there's a ton of information in that chapter. And so when people have questions about that, how do I approach a place? That chapter, read it word for word. There's lots and lots in there. Yes, every state is different in terms of licensing requirements. We have no national licensing. And so you need to check out in your state. One of the things in Colorado, where I am, Comfort Touch really is not massage, it is acupressure. Which is not covered by massage licensing. So it falls under an exemption. That's why volunteers in hospice can do it without being massage therapists. And it also, if there are also exemptions in a lot of states for touch of the hands and feet. And so those are two of the biggest exemptions, but there are other ones the different states have. And I talk a little bit about that, how to find that information in the little book. And this is really, Comfort Touch of the hands and feet is really, it's just such a great way for volunteers to work, because the patterning, the positioning is so much simpler. This little book has been just invaluable for CNAs working in medical settings. You can really implement this just right into your practice. And so, yeah, and I don't know if you do it, Cheryl, but there are a lot of hospices that this basically is their Comfort Touch volunteer training, is just right out of the book. It's set up so that it is itself an 8-hour, 2-part course, 8-hour course, and just following the way that is written is the training itself.
Something that I do in my private home care, I call it heart-centered home care, and we have a council on aging in town that if I'm ever short on clients, which honestly I haven't been, but just a suggestion, they have a bulletin board and people can put notes up there if they're looking for work or what they have to offer. And I know if someone put a message at our local council on aging, I don't know if that's a state thing or what.
Yeah, that we have a similar thing here by county. Yeah.
So that's where the Council on Aging, unless you have a certain kind of insurance or you're a business, they won't tell people that call anything about you. But you can put a note up on their bulletin board that says what you do and has little tear strips with your phone number. And I mean, if you were here, I would love to have you help with my clients. So that, just a suggestion, you don't just have to look at institutions. You can make your own schedule and do private in-home healthcare. And, that's a whole different, another world to look at and think about. I have a client that passed. I do a lot of hospice work too. And I had a client that passed in October this year. She was kind of on my way into town, and I started just stopping at her place because she'd get these headaches that were just debilitating. And we found a place that I would just do the gentlest of touch. It was amazing. And it would just go away. I told her my schedule. I said, these days I go by your house. Let me know if you ever want me to stop. But she was kind of shy. She was 96 97, I think, 98. And she wasn't going to reach out and ask for help much. You know, she's really independent. She still lived alone. So I just started stopping in and saying, hey, Delora, want me to touch your head? And I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so I just have found a lot of joy in private in-home healthcare. I've also done a lot of time in, institutions, and I just have to put a plug out there for private in-home healthcare. People are usually happy to pay you if that's what you're looking for. I mean, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not independently wealthy or retired from anything. So there you go.
If you have something you want to share, believe me, people want what you have to share. I've taught workshops all over the country. And when I have done that, I always, we always work with residents of assisted living somewhere. And so I have cold called assisted living places like in all parts of the country. And all I said basically is I say who I am, and I'm teaching a workshop on comfort touch, which is this just nurturing form of touch for elderly. And I'm teaching a workshop, and we'd love to come and offer free sessions for your residents. And no one's ever said no. And the key is who you talk to. I always talk to the activities people and or life enrichment, as it is called, because they're the people that are really working with the residents and know them and they are actively looking for things that help people to feel good.
Absolutely. Whenever we're working with facilities, we always go to the activities director. And they are so thankful that you connect with them.
Yeah. And the activities directors, I just, it's just a shout out to them. They are just some of the most creative people in the whole system usually, because they're not focusing on the medical issues. They're really focusing on, like they say, life enrichment. And so when comfort touch is seen as an activity, something that it's a wellness thing, it's a fun thing, it's an activity. And usually, like we've done when we do it in a group, it's very social. We're all sitting out in a room together, set up a chair, people come in, and give 15-minute sessions for an afternoon. We've had like a couple years here where a lot of events that were in person, like, we have this Boulder County Agency on Aging that both Juliet and I have participated in that. But that kind of thing, which is a great opportunity for networking, but that kind of thing hasn't happened the last couple of years. So, and we're slowly, because of the pandemic, those kinds of opportunities are opening up again. But that we kind of had a stall on a lot of things the last couple of years.
Mostly, I incorporated it into my private massage practice. And then over time, I would start to get referrals from various sources. And so all of the massage work that I did, the comfort touch work, it was all paid. When I first started as a massage therapist, I needed another source of income. And so I did in-home caregiving through an agency. And even though I wasn't allowed to do massage with clients through the agency while I was working there, as soon as I left there, I was there for 3 or 4 years. I left there, and all of a sudden people started calling me that I had met through the agency. Like other caregivers would start to refer clients to me. So that was a great source. I now do private caregiving. And so it's kind of up to me whether I want to incorporate any kind of massage work with those clients or not. Yeah, I would encourage you, if you want to do comfort touch and get paid for it, then incorporate it into your massage practice and just start to put it out there with people as you meet, especially in caregiving situations or end of life situations, that, hey, I offer this. And, I would mostly do 30-minute sessions. And I think I charged $40. That's still what I charge, like 3 or 4 years later. I
I know.
haven't raised my rates. So, it's not a lot, but it over time it was about half of my practice or more.
Yeah. Are any of you ABMP members? Okay, be sure and put Comfort Touch right now after the Zoom meeting. Be sure and put Comfort Touch in your list of modalities that you practice.
Thank you.
Yes, people can actually find you if you have list Comfort Touch on AB. That's what I tell people is go to that and see who in your area. Yeah.
I've actually gotten calls because in my description in ABMP, I think I say something like I focus on elderly or seniors. I've gotten referrals through them, which just like blows my mind. But
yeah. No, there's just such a need for it, and there are not that many people that, relatively in the massage profession who are putting it out there. So yeah, be sure and put that in there. And like Juliet said, put that in your advertising brochure, whatever, Comfort Touch, using the trademark. People have asked me about using that. It's like, it's fine to use it. Yes, use it. If you have, if that's what you're doing, then yes. And you've gone through some kind of training with me. That's great. And you're following those 6 principles. That's by definition what Comfort Touch is. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the new little booklet. It's this originally bereavement, dealing with grief and loss. Back part of my, I've originally started working with hospice in 1989, and then as a massage therapist, and then I started the next year. I took a training to learn how to facilitate grief support groups for hospice. And the training that I took was absolutely life-changing. I mean, it made me realize that some of the losses that I had in my life, which were not death, but were other significant losses, it just validated how significant they were in my life and helped me understand the challenges that I had been going through. And so then I started facilitating groups. And one of the things about hospice care, like bereavement care, focuses on the normal and the inevitable process of death and dying, the normal and inevitable process of grieving. And so it's not seen as a pathology that we have to fix. This person is, we have to diagnose what their issue is and then try and figure it out. And so I just kind of naturally took to that because I loved hospice philosophy in working with the people who are dealing with chronic and terminal illness, but with bereavement too. And it was a real distinction from, say, psychotherapy. And I live in an area where there's some great psychotherapy schools, and there are a lot of psychotherapists, and a lot of them have been involved with hospice. And yet we really noticed, and we had to talk about this within hospice, how a bereavement group is not a therapy group. We're not trying to figure out what your problem is and fix it, basically. We're acknowledging the human experience of bereavement and how individual is that is for people, how inevitable it is, how normal it is. And so when I started leading these groups, this was 1990, and there was not much available even for hospices at that time. I mean, we had some really crummy handouts. And so I started working on developing handouts. And then I was also giving talks at a local massage school talking about hospice, but then I also talked about grief and loss. And so in the process of that, I would write all these those of you who've been to a live class with me know that I can just write all day on a board. And so I wrote all these notes on a board, and then I took a picture of it. And then, you know, these, and over a number of times, and I showed this to the woman who is the manager of our grief support services. And she said, you know, that's really great. You should write that into a book. The result is this book, and there's 4 kind of major sections to it. And the first one is, you know, I give a little bit of introduction to some theory of grief, and go through some of the kind of big players' names in the development of theory around bereavement. But the first major section is about losses. What constitutes a loss? And, you know, the obvious things are death, divorce, life changes, moving, separations, but then things like, you know, I live in an area, we have wildfires every year. We had this just incredible wildfire the end of December this year that displaced thousands of people. So loss of home through climate changes, wildfires, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, all of that. And so part of the collective grief we feel is the knowing and the feeling of those kind of losses going on for people. Changes in the last 2 years because of the pandemic, many people have lost their jobs. Many people have had to move, changes that are brought about by job loss. So the whole range of losses is just huge, and things that we don't even think about that we might be grieving for, that we are, you know, just life changes. Like I can't hike like I used to. That is a loss, because at one point, so much of my identity even and healing was because of hiking. And so I can't hike. So because of physical things. So whether it's permanent or temporary, there is that responses that come to the loss. The second section is the cycle of grief itself. And this is also, there's a section in this in the textbook, and it's similar to what's in the textbook, but it's pretty well accepted that grief is not a linear process, is not step by step. Even Elizabeth Kubler-Ross said, unfortunately, people, there's somewhere in here, I have a quote from her about how her work got kind of stuck in that linear way of looking at things, but that in fact, grief is a process that has no specific time frame. It is not linear. People have responses initially. They go through different phases, yes. And they may go back or forth. They may feel really good one day and not another day. And part of it, the theory that I have espoused in this book is that people go through the changes because of loss, but they also carry on. So it's kind of what's called the dual process of grief, where you're going through all this loss, but you get up in the morning and you cook breakfast and you take the kids to school, or, you know, play with the grandkids, whatever you do, that we are capable, we're so capable of human beings to be processing grief and to be carrying on with our life. My friends in Ukraine absolutely are just blowing me away with the way that they are dealing with incredible loss. I mean, they're sleeping in a bunker at night. They just opened up another like root cellar that they can stay in. And he was down there the other day live streaming playing his flute in the root cellar. And then he's saying, yeah, and Natalia says, when the war is over, we're gonna be growing mushrooms in here. You know, and just the hope and the way that they look at the future while dealing with the present, it's just so inspiring. A number of you mentioned in our opening comments today about adapting to change, and that we have an amazing ability to do that. And we also have to acknowledge, you know, loss. I don't like what's happening. This is not fun. This is, you know, all of that range, or it can't be happening. The yearning for that which was lost, so many complex of emotions that go into that. And then that kind of just also that a lot of people go through is just, I can't deal with it anymore. I'm really going to sleep through it all. And the depression, the anxiety, all those kinds of feelings that can also follow. And then the kind of reintegrating, like I think we're coming out of a pandemic. So social lives, we lost our basic way of socially connecting. And so now, as we're sort of coming out of this big phase of it, we're starting to think, okay, how do I be social again? Oh my gosh, I don't even know if I know how to go out in public. So priorities have shifted in the change. The fact that people have multiple layers of grief. You know, you may be experiencing a loss of a loved one through death at the same time as you're experiencing, you know, a loss of home or a loss of, you know, any number of things. So we can be kind of in one part of an experience with one loss in our life and another with another. Chronic illness is huge because it requires so much time and energy and adapting. And yet, you know, you carry on. So then the third section is coping skills. And this is just ways of taking care of yourself, you know, all the, you know, those of you who mentioned the things that have been helpful to you, connection with nature, hiking, gardening, music, you know, everything from rest, doing nothing, spending time alone. I mean, those of you who mentioned solitude, really letting that be a friend, not feeling isolated, but solitude. It has such a more soulful feeling to it than, oh, I'm so sad and lonely. I'm like, I get to be by myself for the day and, you know, do just what I want to do in my own timing and rhythm. There's just lots and lots. It's actually like the biggest section of this book. Support groups, I think, are just so valuable, and I give some suggestions on how to find them or how to create them. Hospice has really been, that's always been a part of the Hospice Mandate, is helping people through bereavement programs that follow. They usually follow a client family 13 months after the death, which is so very valuable. And then the last section is supporting others. How do we support each other? And part of it is just language. You know, we're kind of a death denying culture, so we don't even want to just come out and acknowledge change or loss or death. We kind of, you know, skirt around it. And oh, don't talk to that person. They just, you know, they've been going through a lot. They just lost their, you know, mother or something. And yet my experience is that people that have experienced a loss really appreciate it, that you talk about it, that you ask about it. They say, how are you doing? And how can I help? And sometimes they can't tell you how you can help, but be specific. Say, can I bring you some soup? Or just bring it without asking, just doing those things, flowers, cards, calling someone. And it's hard calling someone who's really grieving, who's really depressed, but you cannot, it's just like comfort touch. You cannot underestimate how the smallest gesture can make a difference in someone's life. You don't have to expect that someone's going to talk or explain everything to you, but just knowing that you actually care just makes a huge, huge difference. I love, Sita, your story about just stopping into the woman and seeing her and not even, just dropping in on her. I mean, that's just awesome. That to me, that's the kind of community that I want to live in, that where people feel free to just check in on people. It doesn't mean that, you might be just 5 minutes, might be just be hi. Can I run get something for you at the grocery store? So just how little things mean a lot. And then things to, not avoiding the subject. But then also, we all know those annoying things that people say, like, oh, time heals all, kind of being aware of some of those things that are helpful to say and things that are not. And also just knowing that not knowing what to say yourself in supporting someone else is just fine. It's fine to say, I don't know what to say, but how are you? It doesn't need to be any grand thing, but the little things make a difference. So anyway, this little thing, I don't have it on my website yet, but I did put it in that email to you, how to get. I'm also going to be coming out with a kind of a wholesale cost on it, because it'd be a very, very useful thing to use if you are leading bereavement support group, whether it's through hospice or you just want to get together with some friends and say, hey, let's talk about stuff that's going on. So it's very broad based, and I've used a lot of this material like in high school classes, as well as it could be a really nice offering in a lot of different settings. So I'm happy that I finally got it done. I'm working on an article right now that will probably be published in Massage and Bodywork magazine about tonic acupressure points. This is one Juliet's been on my case for a long time to get this article written, and thank you, Juliet, for your support. But it talks about the relationship between the motor points in the muscles to tonic acupressure points, and which is really about the theoretical underpinnings of why comfort touch works. So it's a more theoretical type of article, but one I really have been wanting to get out there. So I'm excited that that'll be happening. I'm not sure when, but I'll let you know. I want to do this more often, and I'm really thrilled to hear from those of you who've taken the online course and enjoyed it.
With that at all.
I used to do stuff on a donation basis. I don't anymore, haven't for a long time. I set a fee, and then if people ask about a discount or a sliding scale, I'm way easy about that kind of thing.
And
but
what do you say? What do you say though? I mean, do you let them decide what they're going to pay, or do you say? In some cases I have, and generally though I just set a fee, or if it's in a facility that has money for activities, and believe me, they all do, that activities department pays for it. They pay me, and then I just do sessions and people sign up for them. That's one way. In a group situation, that, again, talking to your activities people is number one way to go. But to just be available and say, okay,
here's, you could do this on your own. You could say Thursday afternoon, I am going to be between this time and this time, I'm going to be offering half an hour sessions of Comfort Touch. Here's the fee. And just start with that.
Yeah,
If
what-
you will get people who just can't wait to sign up. And then if someone gets some, oh, I want to do it, but I just don't have the money, then you can say, okay, we can talk about that. The need is there, and the need is there, and people are especially feeling touch deprived after the last.
Yeah, oh, it's really, really good. 'Cause they had to,
I think though, for seniors, personal, whether they required it or not, I would wear one if I went
Yep.
to a senior center, because
Mhm.
I'm a bit more out and about than many of them, but they're higher risk.
You know, we're coming into the summer here, so review that little video that Juliet and I did out in the backyard in the summer of 2020. That is just, you know, doing Comfort Touch seated session in the backyard is awesome. And we were wearing masks then, but you can start to feel comfortable, I think, not wearing a mask if you're outside. But that's something to think about, you know, is how nice it is to do Comfort Touch outside too.
Yeah.
I think it's a fine question. I think it's totally fine. I mean, we're talking about protecting your own health here too. So it is, it's a very valid question. Absolutely. I ask that of people that come into my house, or people that come into my garage. I have a little drumming class, and the agreement is must be vaxxed to, and if anybody requests that we wear a mask, then we all wear a mask here. But I want to thank you all for coming. I'm going to just say bye.
thank
And
you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
okay, bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.